Howdy, Mishan here, and today I'll be talking about ADC Runes and what you're going to be needing for the new season. To start off with, we're going to be looking at the Fleet of Footwork Relic Shield page. Pretty standard. You're on Fleet of Footwork, Overhill, Bloodlines, Coup de Grace. So the more interesting part of this is the secondary masteries. So I personally would recommend, if you are in Platinum and below, to run Sorcery and to run Celerity and Gathering Storm. This is because the duration of your games go on for long enough where Gathering Storm becomes value. At 20 minutes it becomes an okay value mastery. Around 30 minutes it becomes a great value mastery, and then it just gets better and better. What you do find right now is a lot of the pros running Domination. They run some variation of this in the Domination tree with Taste of Blood, and then either Zombie Ward, or depending on which ADC they're playing, Ravenous Hunter. Eyeball Collector gives that a little bit of extra AD, so it can be worth running if you're not going to get good value out of Zombie Ward or Ravenous Hunter. I think it's down to the average duration of the game. The higher you go, you're looking for more early and mid game power, and that's why they will run Taste of Blood and Zombie Ward or Ravenous Hunter to give them a bit of extra power in the early, because the games end a bit quicker. So the other option in this is to go for Resolve. Straight off the bat, you do lose 9% attack speed and gain 65 health. This is a gold value nerf, as the health does not equal the 9% attack speed, but it's a question of if you value the health more than you value the attack speed. In the first tier row, there isn't too many options. I have seen the occasional unflinching being run against heavy CC teams, because this gives you a bit of value when your summoner spells are off cooldown. Generally though, not that common. The most common options I see are in the second row. Iron Skin, that gives you a bit of extra armor, makes laning phase a bit easier. You will proc the second part of this with auto attacks after a little bit of AD. So you do get the extra value of armor there when fighting, so this can be useful against heavy AD teams. Same goes for the magic res in Mirror Shell. Condition is the other thing you see run. This comes in at the 10-minute marks and gives you the extra armor magic res. This is the more common one that I see run currently, although against hard matchups I have seen Mirror Shell and Iron Skin run. Iron Skin normally the one that they pick in this tree. So in the bottom tier you have a choice between Revitalize and Second Wind. Revitalize will work with your shielding, and it will work with the heals, which is quite nice. So there is some increased value with that. And then Second Wind is just generally taken when you're against a heavy poke lane. Generally this has petered out a bit nowadays. The extra sustain from the 3 potions plus the relic shield makes it quite manageable. The last tree is Inspiration. In the first tier, Perfect Timing is the big favourite, and I think this is mostly because of diving potential in the higher games. They are more likely to dive and be dived, so this gives them a get out of jail free card. A couple options in the second tier with either Magical Footwear. It's at least 350 gold value, and that's not including the extra movement speed, so that's really good. It does mean that you might have a bit harder time dealing against the poke lane before 10 minutes. You do see some people running Future Market. I personally don't like it too much. It does allow you to buy the spikes if you are short of gold, but the more you use it, the less gold value and it contributes to the game. Don't really see anyone running Minion Dematerializer. You have the AD, last thing is pretty easy. If you do struggle a lot, then maybe I'd suggest it. Aside from that, I think practice is better. Don't really see anyone running Cosmic Insight. Same for Approach Velocity, same Celestial Body. You mostly see people running Perfect Timing and Magical Footwear. Onto a regular Fleet Footwork page. This is with the build that I would run if you weren't doing the Relic Shield build right now. With Fleet Footwork, Triumph, Legend, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, and then I would run Sorcery with Celerity and Gathering Storm. If you are below Platinum, this is the page that you will be looking to run. You really only have 2 choices in Triumph or Overhill. Personally, I feel like Triumph is a little bit stronger right now, but Overhill does get some benefit with Fleet of Footwork. There's a good synergy, you never really waste it as it builds into the shield. Right now, Overhill is a little bit underpowered, I'd say, without using Relic Shield, Targon's Bracer to buff it up, and I think we'll see a slight adjustment in the future with this. Triumphant, getting that a little bit of extra gold. I do believe there is a nerf coming in for this, so this might change in the future. The second tier talents, you have a choice between Alacrity, Legends, Bloodline. These are 2 interchangeable, but because you have the healing from Fleet Footwork, I would recommend Alacrity. Will give you more damage, and it sort of evens out the page a little bit, so you're not too healing heavy or you're not too damage heavy. balance than just being too healing heavy. They are, however, quite interchangeable, and I think this comes down to a preference. If you're not that experienced with an ADC, it can be worth running Bloodline just to give you that extra bit of sustain. Finally, the third tier, you have a choice between Coup de Grace, Cut Down, and Last Stand. Right now, Coup de Grace is the strong winner. It can be used every single game. Its condition is also the easiest to help. It's just having the enemy below 40% health. Sometimes it can be worth switching to Cut Down, but they have to have more health than you. This is a weird sort of keystone. If you get behind as an ADC, this gets more value because the enemy ADC will have more health than you. But if you're ahead of them, then its value does decrease and you won't be getting that benefit versus the enemy ADC. I haven't used this too much personally. I find that just Coup de Grace is a little bit better and a little bit more consistent, even if it only breaks down to about 3.6% damage increase, plus the extra AD. Finally, Last Stand. I would not recommend this when running a sustain based page because you're always going to have above a certain health, and this is more designed for dueling ADCs. Overall, I don't think this is the best mastery that you can run right now. Alright, now on to press the attack. This is best used on a champion that has some way to exploit the vulnerability. So we're looking at something like Tristana's E and Twitch's E, where you can build a couple stacks up and then the press the attack vulnerability procs and you get the extra damage from it. On this page I would recommend Triumphant. There isn't really as much sustain in this page is the fleet one, so running overhill isn't that beneficial to you. It still can be worth running overhill if you do have a healing support that will be with you, as you can get the shield up quite quickly and they get some extra benefit from it. The extra gold from Triumphant is really good. Takedowns restoring missing health means that in those close fights it will save your life versus Ignite or any dart. So I would recommend Legend Bloodline with this. And this is just to balance the page out, so there is some sustain in this page. Especially if you're not a competent ADC player, having some sustain will definitely help you out and keep you healthier. But you can run Alacrity. These are very two interchangeable depending on preference. And again, just running Coup de Grace. I don't really switch this up too much myself, as I don't find the benefit to be all that great in switching it. I would stick to Sorcery as my secondary. Alright. Onto Lethal Tempo. This is the worst performing keystone for ADCs right now. I think there's maybe a champion or two that it's doing okay on. It's still really clunky to use. It's got a activation delay before the attack speed kicks in, which is giving it the clunkiness. Riot have tried to fix this by increasing the uptime on it, and I reckon we're still going to get a buff or a tweak to this in the near future. I think Riot will always keep this slightly underpowered, as the potential for this to be crazy is always going to be there. And I would stick with Triumphant on this. I would also run Bloodlines in an attempt to balance out the page a little bit, so you do have that sustain with it. You can switch it to Alacrity, they're very interchangeable, and I would just keep Coup de Grace. Same thing as the other pages, just run Sorcery. If you are below Platinum, definitely worth doing. Alright, and the last specific page we're going to talk about is Aerie and Comet. This is for the AD casters that don't really get any benefit from the precision masteries. You can run Aerie or Comet in this. This is up to you. Aerie is more consistent damage across the entire game. And the choice between running Aerie or Comet is really based on what you want in a mastery. Aerie is consistent damage throughout the entire game, where Comet falls off when the enemy gets boots around, I'd say about 8 to 10 minutes is when it starts to fall off, and you'll find that your hit rate drops quite a bit. Comet is much better at lane bullying and winning lane and going strong from there, and that's what I'd recommend running it for. And Aerie is about just consistent damage throughout the entire game. Onto the tier 1 decisions. You have Nullifying Orb, which can be quite good against a heavy AP game or a heavy AP lane. Aside from that, I wouldn't run it. The shield itself would occasionally save your life, and that is the benefit of running it. Mana Flow Gland is currently what I would recommend running in this page, and that's because you will be using your abilities and this gives you some mana restoration. It has been getting quite a few nerfs. It's still my recommendation for this tier though. Ultimate Hat, I don't think there's any real benefit to running this with ADCs. There's not too many situations where your ultimate isn't back up in time. If you do find that you don't need the mana, then you can potentially switch to this. Onto the second tier. Celerity is my recommendation in this tier. The extra movement speed is really valuable and it gives you a little bit of extra AD. This is more beneficial in Misfortune because of your W. I don't recommend Transcendence. The extra CDR is quite nice. ADCs take a while to hit level 10 and you're looking to generally win lane, so having a mastery that doesn't impact you early is not that beneficial. The other viable option is Absolute Focus. If you're above 70% health, you do a little bit extra damage, and this enables bigger ults, bigger harass to begin with until you lose a little bit of health. And now on to the third tier. So this is really a choice between Scorch and Gathering Storm. We don't really care too much about water walking. Scorch is all about winning lane early and doing that extra damage. It falls off very quickly in the game. Gathering Storm, it gives you a bit more longevity and you get a bit more scaling. Right now I would recommend Scorch for that laning phase though. Gathering Storm is another possibility if you're not very confident in closing the games out within 30 minutes. And we'll quickly cover Klepto Ezreal. So this is running Kleptomancy. On our first tier options, I run Biscuit Delivery. Perfect Timing is also a good alternative depending on what you like. The biscuits from Biscuit Delivery do increase your max mana, which is a benefit to Ez. That's an extra 160 mana, is a bit more damage with Mana Mune. Stopwatch is also a good alternative. Magical Footwear is my choice in T2, and this just goes on gold value. It gives you boots, and it gives you 50 gold less off your upgrade, which to me is 350 value, and that's excluding the extra movement speed. Future Market can be good, you've just got to not use it too much. Its gold value isn't as strong as Magical Footwear, but it does allow you to get nicer item spikes. Minion Dematerializer. I don't think it's worth running this because you're an ADC, you have quite a lot of AD already, which makes last hitting a little bit easier. And if you are having trouble last hitting, I would recommend practice more than using this as a way to increase your CS count. For the last tier, I run Cosmic Insight. It's just some plain old CDR, increases your cap, which Ezreal benefits from. I don't think there's much reason to take Approach Velocity. It's just movement speed in the river, which can help you out and is good for objective fighting. But out of the options, I think this is the weakest for ADCs. Celestial Body. The extra health can be of a benefit, but the minus damage to champions is a big downfall for it right now. And Ezreal, you're looking to poke and win lane, so it's not much benefit really. So I personally run Sorcery for my Ezreal, and I run Scorch and Transcendence. So the reason I run Scorch is to win lane. And that's it. That's the goal on Ezreal, is you want to get a bunch of money on Kleptomancy and use it to win mid-game. There are other options in this. You can run Gathering Storm to give you a bit more scaling. I personally wouldn't recommend running Nullifying Orb, Mana Flow Band, and Ultimate Hat. I have seen some people suggest running Mana Flow Band, but on Ezreal, if you're running Biscuit Delivery, get so much mana in lane, and then your first buy is always tier. So I personally run Transcendence as my other option in this tree, and that's for the 10% CDR at level 10. It does take a little bit to kick in, but when you do get that, you do hit that 40% or 45% CDR on Ezreal, which is fantastic. It means you can spam Qs over and over again. And that's all for now. I don't recommend running any Domination primary keystones. They're just not that strong for ADCs right now. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and good luck in Season 8.